I know my uploads have been lacking a bit recently, and that's due in part to some of the work that I've been doing. Case in point is the time-lapse of building a small 10x10 shed. I'm also working on a time-lapse of building a large dock, but that one's going to take a bit more time to edit as it's around 100,000 photos or so. Anyway, onto what we're doing for this project. So, we're building a 10x10 shed on a concrete slab. We started off by building and scoring up a basic 10x10 frame, and then leveled that frame for where we wanted it. Once we had the frame where we wanted it, we needed to remove the grass and growth under where we'll be pouring our concrete. I didn't have a cultivator or tiller, so I just went with raking until all of it was up, and then leveling the dirt and tamping it down. Once the ground was set how we wanted it, we put our plastic liner down, some metal for reinforcement in the concrete, and then went and grabbed all of our concrete. All 47 bags in total for this one. Once the concrete was all poured and screeded out, I grabbed the bowl float and removed the excess moisture and got it nice and flat. I didn't bother rounding over the edges on this one as the walls will extend past the concrete edge. When it comes to framing out the walls, we're going with the standard 16-inch on center stud spacing and using a ground contact board on the bottom with a doubled up top plate, meaning two 2x4s on top. The spaces where you see studs missing are where doors and windows will end up going. While Adam was getting the walls built, I went ahead and put the wall anchors in by drilling the concrete and putting them in to be tightened down later. Once all four walls are built and leveled out, we can toss our plywood on. You can see where our doors and windows went with the 2x12 headers above them to maintain the structural integrity of the opening, and with jack and king studs supporting it. After the plywood was on and the primary frame secured, it was time to build the trusses and get those tossed up. We went with a 5x12 attic truss design so she could have a small loft to store things on. Before we actually lifted the trusses onto the shed, we wrapped it with house wrap to protect the plywood from moisture. The house wrap is watertight, but allows air to flow freely through the structure so that way it can breathe and dry out as needed. With the trusses on top, we add the plywood onto the gabled ends before attaching the 2x4 for the fascia and soffits. We decided to go with a standard 12-inch soffit. We went with a 2x4 fascia on the outside, which was a bit of a mistake admittedly, as 2x4 fascia material just isn't seemingly sold locally, so we had to buy 2x6 fascia metal and cut it down. Just extra work that we could have avoided. After the soffits are boxed in, we added the half-inch plywood decking onto the roof. The underlayment of choice for this job was actually a bit overkill. Instead of using traditional synthetic underlayment for roofs, we used 90 weight peel and stick underlayment. Normally this is used in valleys for roofs. We had a lot of it from other jobs and just utilized that. Better than the other stuff for sure, just far more expensive if you were to always use it. Now we're finally ready to put the siding on, and we need to remove the concrete form. With it removed, we can start by adding window and door flashing around the openings for the window and door, and then install the exterior door. We originally had planned to build a door, but she wanted an actual door installed, so we put in a standard 36x80 door. It's always so much easier to install these doors when we're the ones who framed it out. We know the opening is actually square and plumb, and it makes it so much easier. You'd be surprised how many times they're not. It's almost time to put the shingles on the roof, so we need to put the drip edge on first. We finally got the window unit for the window and got that installed. I'm not a fan of installing window units this way, but it's what you asked for, so we obliged. God help us though if we ever have to replace that thing. I'd much rather just install a mini split in there myself personally. Before putting the starter shingles on, we need to put tar down along the edge to help mitigate shingle lift, something that is sadly required here in Florida. It's tedious, but it definitely helps. While Adam starts the fun of nailing down the shingles, I'm starting the vinyl siding. He took care of putting the J-channel around the door to save some time, and once I have the corner channel on, it's a simple process of just cutting and nailing the vinyl on. Though I have to say, it goes much faster when you don't have to cut every single piece of vinyl. Finishing up the final day of the build is lots of vinyl work, adding a small lean-to that connects to the fence on the left side, and then fascia and soffit work. While we're watching the vinyl go up, as always, if you like the content I'm putting out, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all new content as it comes out. When it comes to the top of the vinyl, where you're not actually using a full piece, You'll want to cut the nailing strip off of a discarded piece and put it into the J-channel at the top before sliding in the piece of vinyl. This helps take up the slack behind the vinyl and helps prevent the vinyl from getting blown out during storms. Remember that thing I mentioned earlier about the 2x4 and 2x6 fascia? Yeah, this is where we had to contend with that. You had to rip down the bottom piece of metal that goes onto the fascia to get full coverage on the fascia board and prevent any water from getting behind it. It's not really much of an issue, but if we had gone with a 2x6 fascia instead, we could have just slid it on and it would have been much easier for us. With all of that said, this video comes to an end and hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll have more content coming soon as the jobs I've gotten roped into come to an end, and if there's anything in particular that you'd like to see, by all means let me know down in the comments below. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care.